The cowboy's knees hit the freezing mud as two tiny voices rose from the burlap sack, thrashing in Bitter Creek. Holt Calloway plunged both arms into the black water and tore the rope with his teeth. Inside the sack, two little girls, blue-lipped, soaked to the bone, clinging to each other, like their lives depended on the grip, stared up at him with eyes too old for their faces. The smaller one opened her mouth and breathed one broken word. "Papa." 7 years of buried grief cracked open in Holt's chest. He pulled them to him and whispered the only promise a broken man had left to give. Nobody. Nobody touches you ever again. Before we go any deeper into Holt's story with these two little girls, if this already has your heart, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell so you never miss a new Western tale like this one. And while you're here, tell me in the comments which town or city you're watching from tonight. I love seeing just how far these stories travel. Now pour yourself a cup of coffee. Settle in, friends, because what happens next in Dry Fork, Wyoming is a story you will not forget. The older twin, maybe by a minute or two, clung tighter when Holt tried to stand. "Mister," her voice came out like paper tearing. Don't put us back." "I ain't putting you nowhere, darlin'. You hear me, nowhere." "The man said the water would take us." "What man?" "The tall man, with the silver on his belt." "Honey, you listen to me. No man with silver on his belt is ever laying a hand on you two again. Not while I'm breathing. You understand what I'm saying?" The smaller one started coughing. Not a child's cough. Something wet and wrong from deep in her chest. Her little body bucked against Holt's arm like she was trying to cough up the whole creek. "Hold on, sweetheart. Hold on now. Breathe slow. Breathe like me." "She can't. Mister, she can't breathe right since..." "Since what, Grace?" "Since the cold place." "What cold place, darlin'?" "The shed, where we was in the dark." Holt swallowed something hard and sour in his throat. He wrapped both twins inside his coat, the heavy wool one that still carried the faintest trace of his wife's lavender soap, 7 winters after she'd folded it last, and he ran. Ran like the devil himself was coming up out of that creek behind him. The twins weighed nothing. Less than nothing. 2 small ghosts in his arms trembling against his ribs. "Stay with me, girls. Stay with me now. What are your names? Your full names. Can you tell me?" Grace. Grace Eleanor." "Grace Eleanor. That's a beautiful name, sweetheart. And your sister?" "Hope. Hope Marie. She don't talk much no more." "She don't have to talk. She just has to breathe. Can you tell her Papa Holt says breathe?" "Hope. Papa Holt says breathe." And when Holt heard that word Papa come out of that tiny mouth so easy, so trusting, so broken, he nearly dropped right there in the tall grass. A 4-year-old don't say Papa to a stranger. Not unless somebody taught her the word once, and then that somebody was ripped out of her world. He didn't have the heart to correct her. Not then. Not when her teeth were clacking so hard he could hear them against his chest. "Hold on, Grace. Keep talking to me. Tell me something. Tell me anything. How old are you two?" "4. Mama said 4 last birthday." "4. Good. That's good. When's your birthday?" "When the leaves turn yellow." "Autumn baby. Both of you." "Both of us. Hope came out first, but I'm the oldest." "Hope came out first, but you're the oldest, huh?" "Mama said I came out smarter." And Holt almost laughed. Almost. Through the freezing rain and the pounding of his heart, he almost laughed at the absurd, miraculous fact that this tiny, half-drowned thing in his arms had preserved enough of herself to be proud. "Your mama sounds like a real smart woman, Grace." "My mama is dead." "I'm real sorry to hear that, darlin'." "The tall man said so. He said Mama couldn't come for us no more." "The tall man lied to you about other things, Grace. He said the sack wouldn't hurt." Holt's jaw locked so hard his back teeth ached. "Fair enough," he said real quiet. "Fair enough, Grace. You keep holding on." Dry Fork sat 2 miles east of Bitter Creek, and Holt ran every single step of the first pasture before his old gelding saw him coming over the ridge and trotted out on his own to meet him. The horse knew. Animals knew things men had to be taught. Easy boy, easy ranger, Down low. Down low for the girls. Mister, is that horse gonna bite? That horse, darlin', ain't never bit nothin' but hay his whole life. Come on up now. He mounted one-handed, never letting the twins drop an inch, tucking them tight against his chest inside the coat, and he put his heels to Ranger's flanks. Hold tight, girls, real tight. Mr. Cowboy. My name's Holt Calloway. Mr. Holt, I can't feel my hands. You keep talking to me, Grace Eleanor. You keep telling me what you can and can't feel, and I'll know you're still here. Don't you dare go quiet on me. Don't you dare. Mr. Holt. Yeah, darlin'. Is Hope gonna die? Hope is gonna live to be 100 years old. You hear me? Promise. On my mother's grave, Grace Eleanor. Mama said don't swear on graves. Your mama was a fine Christian woman. I'll say it a different way. On everything I got left, Grace. Hope is gonna live. The horse tore up the road to town, like he understood the whole of it. Folks in their windows watched the big rancher thunder past with something small and wet and terrible clutched to his coat, and the word got to Doc Briggs before Holt did. By the time he reined up outside the whiteboard house with the shingle hanging loose, the old doctor was already on the porch with his sleeves rolled up to the elbow. What's this now, Holt? Twins, Doc. Out of the creek. One ain't breathing right. Dear God in heaven, get 'em inside. Inside quick. Don't pull 'em apart. They won't stand it. Bring 'em both to the table together then. Ada Whitmore, get yourself over here. I need hands. Doc, the smaller one. Hope, Doc. Her name is Hope. Hope. All right, Hope. Hope, darlin', open your eyes for old Doc Briggs. Open those eyes, sweet girl. She ain't opening 'em, Doc. I see that, Holt? Her color is wrong. I see that too. Doc. Holt, step back and let me work. Step back. I can't let go of 'em. Grace can hold her sister's hand from the other side of this table, and you, my friend, can stand right there at the foot where she can see your face. All right, Grace, sweetheart. You hold Hope's hand real tight. Don't you let go. I won't let go, Doc. Good girl. Good brave girl. Holt, fetch that kettle off the stove. Careful now. Pour it in the basin slow. Doc, what are those marks on her back? Holt, not now. That ain't from no water, Doc. That's... Not now, Holt. Grace, honey. How long was you and Hope in that cold place? 3 nights. 3 nights. All right. All right, sweetheart. Did anybody feed you in the cold place? Once. A lady come with bread. She was crying. A lady come with bread. You remember what she looked like. She had yellow hair, like Mama used to. All right, Grace. Doc, is she gonna be okay? I'll tell you in 10 minutes, Holt. That's when the front door banged open, and Ada Whitmore came through it without knocking her apron still on from the kitchen flour on one cheek, her gray-streaked hair falling out of its pins. Doc, I heard shouting, "Oh Lord, oh sweet Lord above, whose babies are these?" They're mine, Holt said. Ada turned her head so fast, her hair came loose the rest of the way. Holt Calloway, what did you just say? I said they're mine, Ada. Somebody tied 'em in a sack and threw 'em in Bitter Creek, and I pulled 'em out, and they're mine. Holt, I ain't arguing this with you, Ada. I ain't arguing. I'm saying sit down before you fall down. You're shaking worse than the children. I ain't shaking. You're shaking like a leaf in a storm, you stubborn old fool. Sit. Ada, Holt Calloway for once in 7 years, sit down. He sat. He didn't know how, but his legs folded up under him at the kitchen chair. She pushed behind his knees, and he sat, and he didn't take his eyes off the table for 1 single second. Grace was still holding her sister's hand. Her little white knuckles had gone red from squeezing. Grace, darlin'? Yes, Mr. Holt. You just keep holding on. I am Mr. Holt. Good girl. Mr. Holt. Yeah, Grace. Is this your house? This is Doc Briggs's house, sweetheart. Where's your house? My house is a ranch about 4 miles west, darlin'. It's got cattle and a big red barn and an old dog named Scout who don't bite nobody. Is that where me and Hope are going? And Holt, for the first time in 7 years, felt something warm, put a crack right through the ice around his chest. "Yeah, Grace, that's exactly where you and Hope are going." "Mr. Holt, I never been to a ranch." "Well, darling, you're about to see one." "Hope ain't never been neither." "Then we'll show her together." Doc Briggs made a low sound in the back of his throat. Ada stepped to his elbow. "Doc." "She's breathing easier, Ada. Barely. But easier. Holt, I need wool blankets, hot bricks wrapped in flannel, and a bottle of the whiskey out of my cabinet. The good one, not the cooking one." "Doc, she's gonna pull through." "Holt, I'll tell you when I know. Right now, I'm telling you she's breathing, and that's more than she was 10 minutes ago, so thank God for it, and don't ask me again for an hour." "Fair enough, Doc." "Ada." "I got the bricks already warming, Doc. Been warming since I heard the hoofbeats." "Bless you, woman." "Don't bless me, Doc. Get these babies warm." Ada knelt by the table then. Not by Hope, the one fighting to live, but by Grace, the one still holding her sister's hand. And Ada Whitmore, who had buried her own little girl 6 years back, and had not spoken that child's name out loud since the funeral, reached up and brushed the wet hair out of Grace's eyes with a hand that was shaking worse than Holt's. "Honey." "Yes, ma'am." "My name is Ada Whitmore. Can you say that?" "Miss Ada." "Just Ada, sweetheart. Miss Ada makes me feel old." "Miss Ada, my sister's hand is getting warmer." "Is it, honey?" "She was cold like a fish, and now she's just cold like a person." "That's the blankets working, darling. That's Doc's medicine working." "Miss Ada, are you gonna stay?" "I'm gonna stay, honey." "All night?" "All night, sweet girl. And tomorrow night, too, if you'll have me." "I'll have you." "Good. That's good." "Miss Ada." "Yes, baby." "You smell like my mama." Ada closed her eyes. She didn't cry. Ada Whitmore had not cried in 6 years, not since the last shovel of dirt went on her daughter's grave. But she closed her eyes for a long moment, and when she opened them again, they were different eyes than they had been an hour before. "What did your mama smell like, darlin'?" "Bread and something sweet, like the flowers that come up white in the spring." "Those are apple blossoms, sweetheart. I bake with apples." "Mama baked with apples, too." "Did she, honey?" "Before she went away." "When did your mama go away, Grace?" The tall man said a long time, but I don't think it was a long time. I think it was not so long. The tall man with silver on his belt. "Grace?" "Yes, Miss Ada. How'd you know?" "Holt told me, sweetheart." "Grace, can I ask you one more thing, and then I promise I'll stop asking?" "Yes, Miss Ada." The tall man. "Did you know him before the cold place?" "Oh." Grace went quiet. She didn't look at Ada. She looked at her sister's hand in hers, and then she looked across the table at Holt, who had not moved from the kitchen chair, because he could not have moved a single inch to save his own soul. "Mr. Holt." "Yeah, Grace?" "Is Miss Ada a good lady?" "Miss Ada is the best lady in Dry Fork, darlin'." "Can I tell her something and she won't get mad?" "Miss Ada couldn't get mad at you if you set her barn on fire, sweetheart." The tall man was grandfather. The kitchen went so quiet you could hear the kettle ticking on the stove. Doc Briggs looked up slow from Hope's little chest. Ada did not move her hand from Grace's hair. Holt Calloway closed his eyes and said something under his breath that no 4-year-old needed to hear. "Grace, honey," Ada said real soft. "Your grandfather's name. Do you know it?" "Mama said Mr. Stanton, but she said never to say it out loud." Doc Briggs's face went the color of old ash. "Holt." "I heard her, Doc." "Holt, you know what that name means in this territory." "I know what it means, Doc. That man owns half of Wyoming. He don't own these 2 girls, Doc." "Holt, he don't own these 2 girls. Holt, listen to me. You need to think. You need to think real hard and real fast about what you're stepping into." "I already stepped, Doc. I stepped the second I pulled him out of that creek." Holt Calloway. "This ain't a drifter you can face down with a Winchester. This is Gerald Stanton. This is a man who buys judges the way you buy sacks of feed. Then he'll find out what a man who's got nothing left looks like when he decides to fight." Holt, Doc, with respect, get back to that little girl and keep her breathing and let me worry about the rest. Ada Whitmore turned her head toward Holt, and there was something in her face that had not been in it for 6 long years. Something like the woman she used to be before the grave closed over her daughter. Holt Calloway. Ada. If you mean what you just said, I want you to say it again in front of me, real slow. I mean it. Say it. Nobody is taking these girls. Not a rich man with lawyers, not a judge on his payroll, not a whole army of Stanton's boys. Nobody is taking these girls from this table. Not while I'm breathing and not after. All right then. All right what, Ada? All right then, I ain't leaving either. Ada, you don't know what you're signing on for. Holt, I buried my baby girl 6 years ago, and I ain't spoken her name since. I am signing on for exactly what I am signing on for. Don't you tell me what I don't know. Fair enough. Fair enough, he says. Lord have mercy. Fair enough. Grace had been following all of it with her tired, ancient little eyes, and now she tugged real gentle on Ada's sleeve. Miss Ada. Yes, darlin'. Was that lady with the bread my mama? What did she look like again, sweet girl? Yellow hair and a green dress with little white stitches. Ada looked up at Holt. Holt looked at Doc. Doc looked at the ceiling like he was asking the Lord for patience. Grace, honey, Ada said, I'm going to ask you to remember that face as hard as you can. Can you do that for Miss Ada? I can. That's a smart girl. That's a real smart girl. Miss Ada. Yes, darlin'. If the lady with the bread was my mama, then the tall man lied. Yes, honey, I reckon he did. Then mama ain't dead. Ada opened her mouth. Ada closed her mouth. Ada looked at Holt, and Holt gave her the smallest shake of his head, because 4 years old, soaking wet, half frozen with your twin sister, still not opened her eyes, is not the hour to answer that question. We're gonna find out, sweetheart, Ada said. I promise you on my life we're gonna find out. Miss Ada. Yes, Grace. Until we find out, can you be it? Can I be what, darlin'? Can you be the one that smells like apples? Ada Whitmore, who had not cried in 6 years, put her forehead down on the table next to that child's little hand, and her shoulders started shaking, and she did not make a single sound. Holt stood up from the chair. He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides. He put one big, calloused hand on Ada's shaking shoulder, and the other on Grace's soaking wet hair, and he looked across the table at Doc Briggs, who had not taken his eyes off Hope's little chest rising and falling. Doc. Yeah, Holt. Whatever that little girl needs. Whatever the both of them need. You send the bill to my ranch, and you don't you dare spare a single dollar. Holt, I ain't sending you a bill for this? Doc. I said I ain't sending you a bill, Holt Calloway. Don't you insult an old man. Fair enough. Fair enough, he says. And for a long, long moment, the only sound in that kitchen was the tick of the kettle and the slow, small, stubborn breathing of a little girl named Hope, who was 4 years old, and who had been in the cold dark for 3 nights, and who was for the first time in those 3 nights getting warmer. Outside somewhere up in the hills above Dry Fork, a tall man with silver on his belt was about to learn that the sack had come open, and that the water had not taken what he'd paid it to take. Holt Calloway bent his head down close to that little girl's ear, and he spoke a single sentence, and it was not a prayer, and it was not a threat, but it was the truest thing he'd said in 7 long years. You're home now, Hope. You and your sister both. You're home. Doc Briggs didn't lift his head for the next 20 minutes, and nobody in that kitchen made him. Ada kept one hand on Grace's hair and the other on Hope's small foot, under the blanket, warming the bare skin against her palm, like she was coaxing it back from somewhere far off. Ada. I hear you, Doc. Her pulse is coming up. Praise God. Don't praise him yet. Her fingers ain't pinking up the way I want. What do you need? Another brick. Hot as you can stand to touch it without burning through the flannel. I'll get it. Holt. Yeah, Doc. Step outside with me a minute. Doc, I ain't leaving this kitchen. Holt Calloway, you are leaving this kitchen for 2 minutes, and you are listening to what I have to tell you, And then you are coming right back in. Ada has got these girls. Look at me, son. Ada has got these girls." Holt looked at Ada. Ada nodded once without looking up. Holt stood. The front porch of Doc Briggs's little white house looked out over the main street of Dry Fork, and Dry Fork at that hour of the evening was mostly lamps going on in windows, and a few horses tied along the rail outside the saloon. Doc Briggs pulled the door shut behind them, and he did not light his pipe, which told Holt everything he needed to know. "Holt." "Say it, Doc." 3 nights in an unheated shed, no food but bread once, tied in a wet sack in Bitter Creek in April. Those girls should not be breathing. But they are. Grace is. Hope is a question mark, Holt. I ain't gonna lie to you. She's a question mark. What are you telling me, Doc? I'm telling you the smaller one has a rattle in her lungs I don't like. I'm telling you her color keeps going gray when I turn my back. I'm telling you that little girl has got pneumonia settling in, and pneumonia in a 4-year-old who's already been starved for 3 days is a hard, hard fight. Then we fight. Holt. Then we fight, Doc. You want me to beg, I'll beg. You want money, I'll sell the North Pasture tomorrow morning. You want Denver, I'll put her on a train to Denver tonight. Holt, listen. Doc, don't you tell me you can't save her. I didn't say I can't save her. I said it's a hard fight. There is a difference. All right? All right, Doc. One more thing. What? Gerald Stanton has a man in this town. Say again, Doc. Stanton has a man. In Dry Fork. I don't know who. I've been hearing it for 8 months. Cattle going missing from small ranchers. Land deeds getting quietly signed over. Somebody feeding information up the line. Doc, are you telling me? I am telling you. Holt, that word that a big rancher came out of Bitter Creek with 2 soaking wet children is going to reach Gerald Stanton's ear before the sun comes up tomorrow. Maybe before midnight. You understand me. Holt turned his face toward the street. A lamp in the window of the saloon flickered and steadied. Somewhere down the road a dog barked twice and went quiet. How long do I have, Doc? Until dawn, if you're lucky. Maybe less. Then we don't sleep tonight. No, son. We don't. Holt pushed the door open and went back inside. Ada looked up and read his face in half a second the way women who have known grief read faces. He's coming, isn't he? Somebody's coming, Ada. Maybe not him, but somebody of his. How long? Dawn. Then we got work. Ada. Don't you Ada me. I lived in this town my whole life. I know which doors to knock on when the sun goes down. Who? Oh. Pastor Mills for one, Lou at the livery, Mrs. Henneman, the widow Prescott. Every woman in this town who ever held a sick child through a fever will come tonight if I ask them, and Gerald Stanton's man is going to find himself walking into a house with 15 witnesses, not 2. Ada, I don't want you walking these streets in the dark. Holt Calloway. I walked these streets in the dark the night my Sarah died, and every night for a year after, and nobody touched me then, and nobody's touching me now. Fair enough, Ada. Fair enough. Lord, that word out of you is starting to wear a hole in me. Doc, watch these girls. I'll be an hour. Ada. Yes, Holt. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank me when these babies are sitting at your kitchen table eating biscuits. The door closed behind her, and Holt pulled up the chair close to the table and took Grace's little hand in his, and Grace, who had been half dozing with her cheek against her sister's arm, opened her eyes and looked at him. Mr. Holt? I'm here, darlin'. Is Miss Ada coming back? Miss Ada is getting friends to come sit with us, sweetheart. She'll be back quick. Mr. Holt? Yeah, Grace. The tall man will come. I know, darlin'. He said if anybody found us, he'd come. Grace, look at me. Look at my face, honey. He can come. He can bring every lawyer in Wyoming. He ain't getting through that door. He has a gun, Mr. Holt. Grace Eleanor, I got a gun too. But it ain't the gun that's keeping you safe tonight. You know what's keeping you safe tonight? What, Mr. Holt? The fact that a whole lot of good people in this town just found out about you. And good people in a small town, darlin', is the hardest thing in this world to fight. Mr. Holt. Yeah, sweetheart. Hope moved her fingers. Say again. Hope moved her fingers, just now. She squeezed me. Doc Briggs's head came up so fast his glasses slid down his nose. Grace, honey, show me exactly which hand. This one. The one I'm holding. Squeeze her back, darlin'. Gentle. I did, Doc. And she squeezed you. Yes, sir, twice. Praise the living God. Doc. Holt, her body is fighting. That's what that is. That's her brain telling her hand to squeeze back. That is a very, very good sign. Hope. Holt leaned down close to that tiny face. Hope, darlin'. It's Papa Holt. Can you squeeze Grace's hand one more time for me, sweetheart? Just one more time. Nothing. The kitchen held its breath. And then, slow, so slow, you had to be watching to see it. Hope's two smallest fingers curled in against her sister's palm. There it is. Doc said very soft. There it is, little one. You stay right here with us. Mr. Holt? Yeah, Grace. Hope knows you. She can't know me, darlin'. We only just met. She knows your voice. She was listening in the sack. She told me in the dark. What did she tell you in the dark, Grace? She said somebody was gonna come. Somebody was gonna come. She said she heard hooves in her dream and a man talking soft, and the man would come for us. Holt put his forehead down against the edge of the table, and he did not speak for a full 30 seconds. Mr. Holt. I'm here, Grace. Are you crying? No, darlin', I ain't crying. Grown men don't cry. My mama said grown men who didn't cry was the ones you couldn't trust. Your mama, Holt said, and his voice cracked right down the middle. Your mama sounds like she was the smartest woman in the whole Wyoming Territory. That's when the boot on the porch step made it sound. Not Ada's boots. Ada's boots were small and quick. This was a man's boot. Heavy, slow, deliberate. Doc Briggs's hand went to the drawer of his table where he kept the little derringer, and Holt stood up from the chair and moved himself between the table and the door in one motion. Doc. I see him, Holt. Grace, honey, you keep holding your sister's hand and you don't make a sound. You hear me? Yes, Mr. Holt. The knock that came was 3 slow knuckles. Doc Briggs. Doc, it's Tom Garrow. I need to speak with you, Doc. It's urgent. Holt looked at the door. Holt looked at Doc. Doc, you know that voice? I know it. That's Stanton's old foreman. Used to run his ranch before he got turned out last year. Turned out why? Nobody ever said. Just that he left one morning and didn't come back, and Stanton put the word out in 3 counties that nobody was to hire him. Doc, that man worked for Stanton for 20 years. I know it, Holt. The knock came again, harder this time. Doc, I ain't here for trouble. I'm here because I heard what happened at Bitter Creek. I'm here because I know who them babies are. Doc, let him in, Holt. If he meant harm, he'd have come through the window, not the front door. Holt opened the door, one hand on the latch and one hand at his belt, and Tom Garrow stepped into the lamplight of the doctor's kitchen and took his hat off the second he saw the little girl at the table. Lord in heaven, Mr. Garrow. It's true then. He done it. He really done it. You want to sit down, Mr. Garrow? I don't reckon I can sit, Doc. I don't reckon I'll sit down for the next week. What do you know, Garrow? I know whose babies those are, Mr. Calloway. And I know why he wanted 'em gone. Say it. Those are Eleanor Stanton's girls. We figured that much. You didn't figure the rest. Then tell it. Eleanor ain't dead, Mr. Calloway. Go on. She ain't dead and she never was. He told the whole territory she died birthing twins 3 years back, and he buried an empty box in the family plot, and he took those babies and gave 'em to an old woman in a shack up past Crow Butte to raise in the dirt so the Stanton name wouldn't have no stain on it. Why, Garrow? Why would a man do that to his own blood? Because Eleanor married a drifter, a half-Cherokee horse trainer by the name of Jesse Two Rivers, and Gerald Stanton would sooner drown his own grandchildren in a creek than let Cherokee blood inherit his land. The silence in that kitchen was the kind of silence that ain't really silence at all, but a roar of the heart. Garrow, you saying, I'm saying Jesse Two Rivers is dead, Mr. Calloway. Got himself shot in the back 4 years ago by a man nobody ever found. And Eleanor. Eleanor he has kept locked up in the east wing of his house for 3 years, telling her the children died in the birthing, and telling every servant in that house she'd gone mad with grief and couldn't be seen. And the bread. The what? The bread. Grace here says a lady with yellow hair brought bread to the cold place. One time. Green dress with white stitching. Garrow's face went the color of Doc's kitchen wall. That's her dress. That's Miss Eleanor's dress. She found out. Found out what, Garrow? Found out they was alive. Somebody told her. Somebody in that house told her, and she got out, and she got to those babies with bread, and then he caught her, and he put her back, and he ordered the sack. Who, Garrow? Who told her? I did, Mr. Calloway. Holt looked at the man a long time. You got her out to the shack once. Once? That's all I could do and keep my own neck. Then he caught her coming back, and he knew, and I was done. I've been sleeping in the hills for 6 weeks waiting to hear what he'd do next. And now you know. Now I know. Garrow, where is she right now? Eleanor. I don't know, Mr. Calloway. I rode here soon as I heard you come out of the creek. But I'll tell you this. If he thinks those babies are dead, he don't have no reason to keep her alive no more. And if he knows they ain't dead, he's gonna go home and finish her before sunup to keep her quiet. Doc. I heard him, Holt. Doc, I got a ride. Holt Calloway, you cannot leave these girls. Doc, that woman is their mother, and he is going to kill her tonight. Holt. Mr. Holt. Grace's voice little and thin from the table. Yeah, darlin'. Is the lady with the bread my mama? Grace Eleanor, listen to me, sweetheart. I don't want to promise something I ain't sure of. But yes, I think she is. And I think she is in trouble, and I think I gotta go get her. Mr. Holt. Yeah, Grace. Bring her home. I will, darlin'. Promise. On everything I got left, Grace Eleanor, I swear it. Mr. Holt. Yeah, sweetheart. Hope says bring her home too. Hope said, she squeezed 3 times. That means yes. That's how we talk when the tall man is outside. And Hope in the blankets with her eyes still closed and her little chest rising and falling, like she was carrying the weight of the world on every breath, opened her mouth and spoke one word. Mama. The whole kitchen went still. Doc Briggs put his hand over his own mouth. Garrow turned his face to the wall. Hope. Holt's voice came out in a whisper. Hope, darlin', say it again. Say it one more time for Papa Holt. Mama. I'm getting her, sweetheart. I'm getting your mama, and I'm bringing her home to this table. You hear me, Hope? Mama. I hear you, little one. I hear you. The front door opened, and Ada came through it in a rush of cold air. And behind her were 5 women of Dry Fork, and 2 men and Pastor Mills, with his Bible under one arm, and an old Colt revolver under the other, and they filled that kitchen up until there wasn't room to turn around. Ada? Holt Calloway, what is that look on your face? Ada, I got to ride. Ride where at this hour? Tell her Garrow. Garrow told her. Ada Whitmore listened without moving, and when he was done, she did not say a word for a long moment. Holt. Ada. You take Pastor Mills and Lou from the livery, and you take my late husband's rifle out of the corner behind the door because it shoots straighter than anything you own, and you go. Ada, I can't leave you and the girls. Holt, there are 7 good people in this kitchen right now, and 5 more on the way. Ain't nobody getting to these babies. Ain't nobody getting to me. Ride. Ada Whitmore. Yes, Holt. If I ain't back by noon. If you ain't back by noon, Holt Calloway, I will ride up to Gerald Stanton's house myself, and I will pull his wife out of that east wing with my own 2 hands, and if he tries to stop me, God have mercy on him because I will not. Fair enough, Ada. Fair enough. Grace reached up from the table and caught hold of Holt's sleeve with one tiny hand. Mr. Holt? Yeah, Grace. Tell Mama we waited. I'll tell her, darlin'. Tell her Hope talked today. I'll tell her that too. Mr. Holt? Yeah, sweetheart. Come back. Holt Calloway bent down and put his lips against the top of that child's wet hair, and he breathed in the creek water, and the lavender soap, and the faint smell of bread that wasn't hers, that belonged to a woman locked in an east wing 12 miles away, and he made the second promise he had made that night that a man has no business making. I'm coming back, Grace Eleanor. I'm coming back with your mama. You watch that door. Hope under the blankets whispered it one more time, so faint it was barely a word at all. Mama. And Holt Calloway with Pastor Mills on his right, and Lou from the livery on his left, and Tom Garrow riding point, kicked his horse into the Wyoming dark, and rode hard for the house of Gerald Stanton. The 4 horses tore east along the ridge road, and Tom Garrow rode point, because Tom Garrow was the only man living who knew every back trail onto the Stanton spread. Calloway. Keep riding, Garrow. Calloway, slow up a half mile. I got to tell you the lay of the house before we come up on it. Then tell me at the gallop, Garrow. I ain't slowing for nothing short of my horse going down. Fair enough. The east wing is 3 rooms. First room's empty. Second room was the old nursery. Third room is where he keeps her. Door bolts from the outside. Guards. 2. Old Briscoe at the back stair, and a new man I don't know by name. Young. Fast. Wears his gun low. Pastor. I hear you, Holt. You got Briscoe. Lou, you got the young one. Garrow and me, we get to that door. Holt Calloway, you want a man of God to hold a gun on another man. Pastor, I want you to hold that gun on a man who tied 2 4-year-old girls in a wet sack. You want to pray over him, after you can pray over him after. Fair enough, Holt. Fair enough, he says. Lord, this night. Behind them, the miles of cold prairie peeled away, and Holt Calloway, who had not ridden hard in 7 years, rode like a man 20 years younger than he was. Somewhere on the wind, he thought he heard a child's voice say, Mama, and he leaned forward in the saddle and squeezed his heels into the gelding's flanks. Back in the kitchen of Doc Briggs's little white house, the clock above the stove showed 10:30, and Ada Whitmore had not sat down once in 2 hours. Mrs. Henneman. Yes, Ada. Put another log on. This room is to stay warm enough to sweat in. Already doing it, honey. Widow Prescott. I want you at that front window. You see a horse, you don't know a man. You don't know anything that don't belong, you holler. I'm watching Ada. Pastors Sarah, you at the back. Same orders. Yes, ma'am. Doc. Yes, Ada. How is she? Doc Briggs looked up from the table where Hope lay bundled in 3 layers of wool, her little chest still rising and falling in that same stubborn rhythm. Her fever's come up, Ada. 103. Oh, Lord. Don't lord me yet. A fever is the body fighting. It's when they go cold again that I worry. Grace, honey. Yes, Miss Ada. You hungry, sweet girl? A little Miss Ada. I got broth on. I'm gonna feed you a spoonful at a time, and you tell me when to stop. All right. Yes, Miss Ada. Grace. Yes, Miss Ada. Can I ask you something about the cold place? Yes, Miss Ada. Was there anybody else in that shack, besides you and Hope and the old woman and the lady with the bread? Grace went quiet. Her little spoon hovered halfway to her mouth. Miss Ada. Yes, sweetheart. There was a boy. Ada set the spoon down slow. What boy, honey? A boy in the corner. He didn't talk. He didn't move much. I think he was sick. How old a boy, Grace? Bigger than me and Hope, like maybe 6, maybe 7. He had black hair. Did the old woman feed him too? Sometimes. Not always. Mostly he was by himself. Grace. Yes, Miss Ada. What color was his skin, darlin'? Dark. Like bread when it comes out the oven brown. Darker than Papa Holt. Mrs. Henneman, who was standing by the stove, put one hand against the wall to steady herself. Ada. I heard her, Mrs. Henneman. Ada, if there's a boy. I know. Ada, that boy has got to be Eleanor's first. The one nobody ever knew she had. The one the Cherokee man. I know, Mrs. Henneman. Then that child is still up there. I know it. Ada, what are we going to do? Ada Whitmore turned back to the table, and she looked at Grace, and she smiled the kind of smile a woman gives a 4-year-old when she wants that child to believe the world is a calm place. We're gonna finish your broth, sweet girl, and then you're gonna close your eyes a little while, and when you wake up, Papa Holt is gonna be back, and your mama is gonna be back, and I'm gonna tell him everything you just told me. That's what we're gonna do. Miss Ada? Yes, honey. The boy's name was Samuel. Samuel. The old woman called him Sammy, but the lady with the bread called him Samuel. The lady said it was his daddy's name. Ada Whitmore closed her eyes for the second time that night. 12 miles east, the Stanton Ranch house stood on a rise above a long curve of cottonwoods, and Garrow reined in hard at the tree line, and the 3 other horses came up behind him. Lou from the livery spoke first, and he spoke low. Garrow, there ain't a light burning in that whole house. That ain't right. Stanton keeps his porch lamp on all night every night. 20 years he's done it. Garrow, I see it, Calloway. What does it mean? Means he ain't home. Say again. Means Gerald Stanton ain't in that house tonight. Pastor Mills crossed himself very slowly. Holt. I hear it, Pastor. Holt, if he ain't in that house. Then he's riding the other direction, Pastor. Then he's riding for Dry Fork. Holt Calloway Ada is in that town. Ada and those babies. I know it, Pastor. Holt, we have to turn back. Pastor, his wife is in that house, and she has been locked in a room for 3 years, and we are half a mile from that door, and I will not ride away from her, while Tom Garrow's old boss is still maybe coming up behind us on a different road. We go in. We go in fast. We are out in 10 minutes. Garrow. Yeah, Calloway. How many men in that house right now? 2 on the door, like I said. Maybe a cook. Maybe a housemaid. And Briscoe keeps a dog. Dog. Big one. Lou. Yeah. Holt. You got any of that meat left in your saddlebag? I got half a rabbit I meant for supper. Give it to Garrow. Garrow, you know that dog. That dog knows me. Then the dog is yours. Go. Garrow slid off his horse and was gone into the dark in 3 long strides with Lou's rabbit in his hand. Pastor Mills swung down next, and Holt and Lou, and they went low through the cottonwoods on foot, because 4 horsemen coming up a drive at night was 4 horsemen anybody inside was going to hear from 100 yards out. Pastor, you good with that Colt? I ain't fired it in 6 years, Holt. That ain't what I asked. I was the best shot in my regiment at Antietam, Holt Calloway. Does that answer the question? Fair enough, Pastor. Fair enough. They came up on the back of the house, and the dog growled once from the kennel and then went quiet because Garrow had already been there. And then Garrow was at the back door with his hand on the latch, and he turned it, and the door opened, and he turned back to them and put 1 finger to his lips. The hall inside smelled of wood polish, and something sweeter under it like lavender. Like a woman had lived here once before this house became a cage. Garrow pointed up the stairs. Holt nodded. They went. The first guard, old Briscoe, was asleep in a chair at the top of the landing with a shotgun across his knees. Pastor Mills did not shoot him. Pastor Mills stepped up behind him and laid the barrel of the old Colt against the back of the man's skull and spoke 3 quiet words. Don't move. Briscoe. Who's that? Who's Pastor Mills? Pastor Mills, what in the good Lord's name? Drop the shotgun, Briscoe. Pastor, I don't. Drop it, Briscoe. I ain't asking twice. The shotgun hit the floor. Briscoe's eyes came up and they saw Tom Garrow in the lamplight, and Briscoe's mouth fell open. Tom Garrow, you ain't. Shut up, Briscoe. Where's the second man? Down the hall, at her door. He awake. He's awake. He's always awake. He don't sleep. Briscoe. Yeah, Tom. Is she alive? Briscoe looked at the floor. Briscoe. This morning she was. I brought her breakfast myself this morning. Briscoe, where is Stanton? He rode out 4 hours ago. Which direction? West, toward town. How many men with him? 6. 6. He said he had business. He said he had to finish something he should have finished 3 days back. Tom, what is going on? What did he do? He tried to drown his own grandchildren in Bitter Creek, Briscoe. That is what he did. And one of them is 4 years old, and she is sitting at Doc Briggs's kitchen table right now, telling everybody who will listen what the tall man with silver on his belt done to her. Old Briscoe put his face in his hands. God in heaven, forgive me. I knew something wasn't right. 3 days ago he had the sack made in the saddle shed, and he wouldn't let nobody near it. Briscoe, yes, Pastor. You want to make it right? Pastor, I want to die making it right. Then you stand up and you take us to that second guard, and you tell him there's a fire in the barn, and when he runs, we take him. I can do that. God help me, I can do that. Briscoe stood. He left his shotgun on the floor. He walked down the hall to the far door, and he knocked 3 times. Cobb, the barn's afire, come quick. What? The barn, Cobb, the south barn. Come on, man. The door opened, and a young man with a low-slung holster came through it fast, and Lou from the livery, who had been 20 years a horse handler and had forearms like tree roots, took him around the throat from behind and laid him on the rug quiet as laying a blanket. The young man kicked twice and went still. He ain't dead, Holt, just sleeping. Good, Lou, good man. Holt. Yeah, Garrow. The door. Holt turned, and he saw it. Heavy oak, iron bolt on the outside, a little brass plate with a keyhole under the bolt. Briscoe, you got the key. He keeps the key. Stanton, only him. Then the bolt comes off the hard way. Lou stepped up with the butt of his pistol, and he hammered the iron bracket clean off the frame in 4 hard blows, and Holt pushed the door open, and what he saw in that room he would carry to his grave. A woman on a narrow bed, yellow hair to her waist, dull and unwashed. A green dress with white stitching, the hem of it worn thin, the sleeves patched and patched again. She was so thin, her wrist where it lay on the blanket was the wrist of a girl, not a woman grown. Her eyes were closed. Ma'am. She did not move. Ma'am. Eleanor. Eleanor Stanton. Who? My name is Holt Calloway. I am a rancher out of Dry Fork. I am here for you. Her eyes opened. They were blue. They were the exact same blue as the little girl back in Doc's kitchen. Have you come to kill me? No, ma'am. Then go. He will kill you. Ma'am, your daughters are alive. The breath went out of her like a rope had been cut. What? Your daughters, ma'am, Grace and Hope. They are alive. They are in Dry Fork right now. I pulled them out of Bitter Creek before sundown. They are with a good woman named Ada Whitmore, and with old Doc Briggs. And Grace said the lady with the bread was her mama. And ma'am, the little one just said the word mama for the first time in 3 days, and I promised both of them on everything I got that I was coming back with their mother, and here I am. Eleanor Stanton sat up in that bed. Slow. Slow like a woman learning her own body over again. Her hand shook as she reached out and caught hold of Holt's wrist, and she looked him in the face with eyes that had not focused on another human being in 3 years. Say it again, Mr. Calloway. Ma'am, your daughters are alive. Say it again. Your daughters are alive. Say it one more time. Eleanor Stanton, your little girls are alive and waiting for you 12 miles west of this house, and I am here to take you to them. And she made a sound that was not a word, was not a cry, was not anything the English language has a name for, and she put both her hands over her face, and her whole frame bent forward in that bed, and her shoulders shook. Ma'am, we have got to ride. Your father is gone. He rode west 4 hours ago with 6 men. He is riding for Dry Fork. Her head came up. For the girls. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Calloway. Yes, ma'am. Get me on a horse. Ma'am, you ain't strong enough to. Get me on a horse. Yes, ma'am. Garrow. Miss Eleanor. Garrow, you have been my friend when I had none. Miss Eleanor, we got no time for that. I know it. One more thing. Where is my son? Garrow's face did not change. Garrow's face was already the face of a man in hell. Miss Eleanor? Garrow, where is Samuel? I don't know, Miss Eleanor. He wasn't with the twins when they was put in the creek. The old woman at the shack is gone too. I've been trying to find out for 6 weeks. He is 7 years old, Garrow. I know it, ma'am. Find him. I will, ma'am. I swear to you on my own life I will. Mr. Calloway. Yes, ma'am. Get me on that horse right now. We are riding for Dry Fork, and we are riding fast. My father has had 4 hours. Holt lifted her. She weighed nothing less than one of her own daughters, and he carried her down those stairs, and past the boy on the rug, and past old Briscoe, who was crying without making a sound, and Garrow came behind with a wool blanket that had been folded on the hall table, and he wrapped her in it against the cold. Briscoe. Yes, Mr. Calloway. When Gerald Stanton comes back to this house, if he comes back. He ain't coming back to this house, sir, because I am going to ride behind you right now, and I am going to stand in front of that man when he gets to Dry Fork, and I am going to tell the whole of Carbon County what I watched him do in this house for 20 years, and I do not care if it costs me every day I got left. Briscoe. Yes, Pastor. God bless you, son. Save it, Pastor. Save it for her. They rode. 5 horses now, with Eleanor Stanton bound to Holt's chest inside his coat, the way her daughters had been bound to his chest 6 hours before, and the Wyoming dark was thinning toward morning, and 12 miles ahead of them, somewhere on the same road, or maybe already past the town line, or maybe already inside Doc Briggs's kitchen, was a tall man with silver on his belt and 6 men behind him. Eleanor's voice against Holt's collarbone was very small. Mr. Calloway. Yes, ma'am. Are they pretty? Ma'am. My girls. Are they pretty? I can't remember their faces. Ma'am, they are the 2 most beautiful little girls in the Wyoming Territory, and Grace has got your blue eyes exactly, and Hope, when she opens hers, is going to have them too, and they are waiting for you right this minute, with their hands held together across a kitchen table, and you are going to see them before this sun comes up. Now you hold on to me, ma'am. You hold on, and don't let go. Mr. Calloway? Yes, ma'am. I am holding on. And the 5 horses hit the ridge road going west, and somewhere far ahead in the dark of Dry Fork, a dog started barking and did not stop. That dog kept barking, and Ada Whitmore heard it through the kitchen wall, and Ada Whitmore did not have to be told what it meant. Widow Prescott. I see 'em, Ada. How many? 7 riders, coming up the main road slow. Slow. Slow, like a man who thinks he's already won. Doc. Yes, Ada. Move that table. Push it right up against the wall. Lay Hope in the corner behind it. Grace goes with her. Ada, I can't move this girl. Her fever just broke a hair, and... Doc Briggs, you move that child, or I will move her myself. Gerald Stanton is 200 yards from this door. Lord in heaven. Don't lord me, Doc. Move her. Miss Ada. Yes, Grace. Is it the tall man? Yes, darlin'. He has got guns. I know it, sweetheart. You listen to me. You take your sister's hand. You get behind that table in the corner, and you do not come out. You hear Miss Ada, no matter what you hear in this kitchen. You do not come out. Promise me. I promise, Miss Ada. Good girl. Good brave girl. Mrs. Henneman. I'm here, Ada. You take the shotgun behind the pantry door. You don't point it at nobody unless they come through that front door uninvited. But if they come through, you don't hesitate. You understand me. I understand, Ada. Pastor Sarah. Yes, Ada. You get behind the girls. You are the last wall. If anybody gets past me and Doc and Mrs. Henneman, you are what's left. You hear me? I hear you, Ada. All right then. The hooves came up the road and stopped outside the picket fence, and a voice called out into the dark. And the voice was calm and smooth, and the voice of a man who had never once in 62 years been told no by a person he could not afterwards ruin. Dr. Briggs. Dr. Edgar Briggs. This is Gerald Stanton. I have come for my grandchildren. Ada Whitmore walked to the front door. She did not open it. She stood behind it, and she spoke through the wood in a voice so steady it surprised even her. Mr. Stanton, this is Ada Whitmore. The children in this house are under the care of Dr. Briggs, and they are not to be moved tonight. Mrs. Whitmore, I know your name. I know your late husband's name. I know you buried a little girl named Sarah 6 years past, and I am sorry for your loss. Now open the door. Mr. Stanton, I will not. Mrs. Whitmore, I have a document here signed by Judge Halloran in Rollins that gives me custody of both those children effective immediately. I have 6 men with me. I have come in the middle of the night because those children are my blood, and a rancher named Holt Calloway has stolen them from a lawful arrangement, and I intend to have them back before sunrise. Mr. Stanton, you mean to tell me Judge Halloran signed a custody order at 11 o'clock at night on no notice? Judge Halloran understands urgency, Mrs. Whitmore. I reckon he understands your checkbook, Mr. Stanton. There was a long pause on the other side of the door. Mrs. Whitmore. Yes, Mr. Stanton. Step aside. No, sir. Mrs. Whitmore, there is not a court and not a lawman in this territory that will hold a woman blameless for obstructing a lawful order of custody. I am telling you this as a kindness. Mr. Stanton, there is not a court and not a lawman in this territory that will hold a woman blameless for standing between a murderer and the children he tried to drown. And I am telling you that as a kindness. Another pause. Longer. Mrs. Whitmore, those are strong words. They are true words, Mr. Stanton. Who told you those words? The older one told me, Mr. Stanton, 4 years old, with her own mouth. She told me about the tall man with silver on his belt, who said the water would not hurt. And Mr. Stanton, I have got 11 people in this house right now who heard her say it. The silence on the porch was the kind of silence a man makes when he is rearranging a thing in his head that he thought was already done. Mrs. Whitmore. Yes, Mr. Stanton. A 4-year-old is not a witness in any court I know of. Maybe not Mr. Stanton, but there are 11 grown witnesses in this kitchen who heard her, and there is a man named Tom Garrow riding for your house as we speak, and there is an old foreman named Briscoe who is going to be very interested in what the sheriff has to say tomorrow morning. And that is just what I know in the last 3 hours. Tom Garrow is a drunk I fired 8 months ago. Is that so? Briscoe is a man who has served me for 20 years. Funny how 20 years of service can turn on a man when he watches his employer try to drown his own flesh and blood. Mrs. Whitmore. Yes, Mr. Stanton. Open the door. No, sir. And that is when Grace Eleanor, 4 years old, and small as a minute, and braver than most men, twice her size, spoke up from behind the kitchen table, in a voice that carried clear through the front room. Grandfather, go away. The whole kitchen went still. Stanton's voice, when it came through the door, was not calm anymore. It was something else. Gracie, Gracie, is that you? Grandfather, go away. I don't want to see you. Hope don't want to see you. Mama don't want to see you. Gracie, sweetheart, your mama is in heaven, baby. Your mama has been in heaven a long time. Grandfather, my mama brought me bread 3 days ago. My mama is not in heaven. My mama has got a green dress. The silence that followed went on for so long that Ada Whitmore could hear her own heart beating inside her ribs. Who? Who has told this child? Who has filled her head with? Nobody filled her head, Mr. Stanton. Her head came that way, with her own memories, that you did not manage to drown out of her. Mrs. Whitmore, open this door. Open it right now. No, sir. Open it, or I will have it open. Mr. Stanton, you so much as put your boot on that porch plank, and you will find yourself looking down the barrel of a widow's shotgun, and I will swear in court that you came through the wall of a doctor's house in the middle of the night to take sick children who were in lawful medical care, and every woman in this town will swear it behind me. That's when the second voice came, from somewhere behind Stanton on the road. Pa. Nobody inside the kitchen moved. Pa stepped back from that door. Eleanor. The word came out of Gerald Stanton's mouth like a man passing a stone. Pa, step back from that door right now. Eleanor. Eleanor, my girl. My sweet girl. Come here. Come to me. You have been so sick, sweetheart. You have been out of your head for a long time. Let me get you home. Pa. Eleanor, who brought you here, who put you on a horse. You ain't well, baby. Pa, I am going to say this one time. Step back from that door. Inside the kitchen, Grace's eyes had gone as wide as saucers, and her little hand had gripped Hope's hand so hard, Doc Briggs had to come over and gently loosen her fingers so she didn't bruise her sister's wrist. Miss Ada? Yes, Grace. That's my mama. I know, darlin'. That's my mama out there. I know, honey. Can I? Not yet, sweet girl, not yet. Miss Ada is going to open this door at exactly the right moment, and not 1 second before. You sit tight. Out on the road, Holt Calloway had come down off his horse, with Eleanor still wrapped in his coat, and he had set her on her own 2 feet in the dirt, and she had walked 8 steps all by herself, on legs that had not walked 8 steps in 3 years. And she had stopped in front of her father, 10 feet from the picket fence with Holt at her shoulder, and Pastor Mills at Holt's shoulder, and Lou and Garrow and old Briscoe spread behind them in a line. Eleanor, look at me. I am looking, Pa. Eleanor, these men have told you lies. They have taken advantage of a sick woman. Come home with me. We will get you well. Pa, where is Samuel? Gerald Stanton's face did something then. Something Ada Whitmore, watching through the crack of the front door, saw clearly even in the lamplight. Eleanor, Samuel is... Pa, do not lie to me. Where is my son? Samuel is safe, Eleanor. Where? He is with people who are caring for him. He is well. He is fed. He is... Where, Pa? Eleanor, you will see him when you are well. Pa, I am going to ask you one last time, and then I am going to walk past you into that house, and I am going to hold my daughters in my arms for the first time in 3 years, and after that I am going to the sheriff's office. Where is my son? Eleanor, I did what I had to do to protect this family's name. Where is Samuel? Because your husband was a half-breed horse thief who did not deserve the hand of a Stanton. Jesse was not a horse thief, Pa. Jesse was a horse trainer, and you had him shot in the back because he would not take your money to leave me. The whole road went quiet. Eleanor, you do not know what you are saying. I know exactly what I am saying, Pa. Tom Garrow told me 2 years ago. He told me the man you paid. He told me the amount. He told me the night. I have known for 2 years, Pa. I have been locked in your east wing for 2 years, knowing that my husband was murdered on your order. Eleanor. And I have spent every one of those days and nights praying that somebody somewhere would find my babies before you could finish what you started. Eleanor, my dear, you are not well. Pa, where is Samuel? And Gerald Stanton made the mistake then that a man like Gerald Stanton eventually makes, because a man like Gerald Stanton has never in his life been cornered by someone he cannot buy. His hand went to his belt. The silver one. 4 things happened in the same half-second. Holt Calloway stepped between Eleanor and her father. Pastor Mills drew the old Colt and leveled it at Gerald Stanton's chest. Lou from the livery drew his pistol on the nearest of Stanton's 6 men. And old Briscoe stepped out from behind the line and spoke in a voice that carried up and down the whole street of Dry Fork. Gerald Stanton, you take your hand off that belt right now, or so help me God, I will put you down myself. Briscoe, 20 years, Gerald. 20 years I have done your dirty work, and 20 years I have looked the other way, and tonight it ends. You take your hand off that gun. You take it off, or I will. Stanton's hand moved a 1/4 inch further. Mrs. Henneman inside the kitchen pushed the curtain aside and lifted the shotgun and laid it across the windowsill. Up and down the street of Dry Fork lamps had been coming on for 10 minutes, and now doors were opening too, and men were coming out onto porches in their shirts and nightcaps with rifles in their hands, because a town that has listened to a 4-year-old's voice through a front door is not a town that is going back to bed. Pastor Mills's voice cut clean through the cold air. Mr. Stanton, on the count of 3, you are going to lay that pistol on the ground in front of you. 1. Mills, you are a man of God. 2. Mills, you cannot. 3. Gerald Stanton, for the first time in 62 years of a life lived on top of the world, did what he was told. The pistol hit the dirt. Eleanor Stanton walked around her father without looking at him. She walked up the path to the porch. She put her hand on the door, and she said the only word she had the strength left to say. Ada. Ada Whitmore pulled the door open. Eleanor stepped inside, and her eyes found the corner of that kitchen, and the little table pushed against the wall, and the two small shapes behind it, and her knees went out from under her, and she went down in the doorway, and Grace Eleanor came out from behind that table at a dead run. Mama. Baby. Mama. My baby. My baby girl. Gracie. Gracie Eleanor. Mama, you came. I came, sweetheart. I came. I came. Mama, Hope is sick. Where is she, baby? Show me where your sister is. Grace took her mother's hand, and Eleanor Stanton crawled across the kitchen floor on her hands and knees, because she did not have the strength to stand, and she reached the little table in the corner, and she saw her smaller daughter wrapped in 3 layers of wool, with her eyes closed, and her little chest rising and falling, and Eleanor lay down on that floor beside her, and put her mouth against her baby's ear. Hope, Hope, my darling, it's Mama. Mama is here. Mama is here, my love. Mama. Yes, baby. Yes. Mama came. Mama came, Hope. Mama will never leave you again. Do you hear me? My love, never. 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 Doc Briggs turned his face to the wall and wept without making a sound. Out on the road, the sheriff of Dry Fork, who had been woken by his wife 15 minutes earlier, rode up with 2 deputies and a pair of handcuffs, and he looked at Gerald Stanton standing in the dirt with his pistol at his feet and his 6 men sitting their horses with their hands up, and the sheriff said one sentence. Mr. Stanton, you are under arrest for the attempted murder of 2 children, and for conspiracy in the unlawful murder of Jesse 2 Rivers, and for the false imprisonment of your own daughter. Sheriff, you cannot prove. Mr. Stanton, I have got 11 witnesses in that house, and a foreman of 20 years standing, and a former ranch hand and a pastor, and I reckon by noon tomorrow I will have a good deal more. Turn around, hands behind your back. And Gerald Stanton, the richest man in Carbon County, turned around, and the cuffs clicked shut on his wrists, and the street of Dry Fork watched in a silence so deep you could have heard a feather fall. Inside the kitchen, Eleanor Stanton held both her daughters in her arms for the first time in 3 years, and Holt Calloway stood in the doorway with his hat in his hand, and Ada Whitmore came up beside him and put her hand on his arm. Holt. Yeah, Ada. You did it. We did it, Ada. Mr. Calloway. Eleanor's voice from the floor. Yes, ma'am. Come here a minute. Holt walked over and knelt down. Mr. Calloway. Yes, ma'am. My girls told me a story just now. Did they, ma'am? They told me a man named Papa Holt pulled them out of a creek, and they told me a woman named Miss Ada smelled like apples, and they told me there was a ranch 4 miles west of here with a big red barn and an old dog named Scout. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Calloway, my daughters have not had a home in 3 years. Ma'am. And I have not had a home in 3 years either. Ma'am, Mr. Calloway, when the sun comes up, I would like to see that red barn. Holt Calloway looked at that woman lying on Doc Briggs's kitchen floor, with her 2 little girls pressed up against her heart, and he looked at Ada Whitmore standing in the doorway of that kitchen, with her apron still tied and her hair still loose. And something in him that had been broken for 7 years, since the night of a fire he had not been able to stop, closed itself up and began very quietly to mend. Ma'am. Yes, Mr. Calloway. Sun comes up in about 2 hours. That's about right. I'll have the wagon ready. Thank you, Mr. Calloway. Holt, ma'am. Just Holt. Eleanor. Eleanor. Grace from her mother's arms looked up at Holt with her blue eyes shining and tired and full of something that had not been in them when he pulled her out of the creek 8 hours before. Papa Holt. Yeah, Grace? Hope says thank you. She say that with her fingers, darlin'. 3 squeezes. Well, you tell Hope that Papa Holt says you're welcome, and you tell her the sun is coming up soon. I will, Papa Holt. And Grace. Yes, Papa Holt. I promised you I'd bring your mama home. You did, Papa Holt. I keep my promises, darlin'. I know you do. Somewhere down the street, old Briscoe had climbed back on his horse and was already riding north in the dark because Briscoe had one more thing to do before morning, and that was to find a little boy named Samuel, who was somewhere in these hills with an old woman and a fever, and Briscoe was not coming back to Dry Fork without him. Briscoe rode north for 5 hours without stopping, and the sun came up over the Wyoming hills and found him still in the saddle, and the old man did not slow his horse until he saw the crooked chimney of a shack in a hollow past Crow Butte, with one thin line of smoke coming out of it. He swung down 100 yards off and walked the rest. Miss Hattie, you open this door. It's Briscoe. It's just Briscoe. Briscoe. That you? Briscoe. It's me, Hattie. Open up. The old woman who opened that door had not been fed proper in a month. Her hands shook. Her eyes went past Briscoe's shoulder looking for the tall man who had been paying her for 3 years. Briscoe, where is Mr. Stanton? He said he'd be back a week ago with the money. I ain't got nothin' to feed the boy, Briscoe. I ain't got nothin'. Hattie, listen to me. Mr. Stanton ain't comin'. Mr. Stanton is in the Dry Fork jail this morning and he ain't coming out. The boy, where's the boy? Briscoe, I didn't do nothing to him. I swear on my mother's grave. I gave him what I had. I just didn't have much. Hattie, I ain't here to hurt you. Where is Samuel? In the back, on the cot. He ain't been right for 2 weeks, Briscoe. The fever. I couldn't get no doctor out here. Briscoe pushed past her, and he crossed that shack in 4 steps, and there on a cot in the back room was a little boy with dark hair and darker eyes, and a face too thin for a 7-year-old, and he was awake, and he turned his head when Briscoe came through the door. Mr. Samuel. Mister, are you a good man or a bad man? Old Briscoe, who had done 20 years of bad work for a bad man, got down on his knees by that cot, and he took that little boy's hand in his own 2 hands, and he answered him honest. Samuel, I have been a bad man for a long time, but I am trying to be a good one today. Your mama is waiting for you in Dry Fork. Your sisters are waiting for you in Dry Fork. Your mama told me to find you and not come back without you. Can I take you to her son? The little boy's eyes filled up. Mister, my mama is in heaven, Ms. Hattie said. Samuel, Ms. Hattie was lied to same as you. Your mama is alive. Your mama is alive and she is asking for you by name, and I am here to take you home. Mister, I don't got no shoes. Samuel, I will carry you every mile of the way. I will carry you on my back and on my shoulders and in my arms for as long as it takes. You ready, mister? Yes, Samuel. What's your name? My name is Briscoe's son, and from today on, if your mama will have me anywhere near her family, I intend to spend whatever days I got left making up for the ones I spent doing wrong. Mr. Briscoe. Yes, son. Can I have some water first? Son, you can have all the water in Wyoming. Briscoe carried him out. He wrapped the boy in his own coat, and he lifted him onto the horse, and he climbed up behind him, and he left old Hattie standing in that doorway with a silver dollar of his own money in her hand, and a promise that the sheriff would come for her in his own good time, and he rode south. By mid-afternoon, he was coming down the last rise into Dry Fork. Holt Calloway was out on the porch of Doc Briggs's house when he saw the single rider coming up the street with a small shape in the saddle in front of him, and Holt did not say a word. He just walked back into the kitchen where Eleanor was sitting at the table with Grace on her lap and Hope asleep in the crook of her other arm, and he spoke real quiet. Eleanor. Yes, Holt. Eleanor, you look out that window. She looked. Her hand went to her mouth. Her whole body went still. Samuel. Yes, ma'am? Samuel, Samuel, Samuel. She put Hope down in the cradle of blankets on the table, and she set Grace on her feet beside her. And she walked to that door, and she opened it. And she walked down that porch step, in a dress that was 2 sizes too big for her, and a pair of borrowed boots that did not fit, and she did not stop walking until she was at the head of Briscoe's horse. Samuel. Mama. Samuel. Mama, your hair is the same. Yes, baby. Mama Miss Hattie said you was dead. I know, son. I know she did. She was told to say it. She was lied to. Come here to me, my love. Come here to Mama. Briscoe lowered that little boy down off the horse and into his mother's arms, and Eleanor Stanton, who had not held her firstborn son in 3 years, stood in the middle of the main street of Dry Fork, with him clutched against her chest and his bare feet dangling past her knees. And she wept with her whole body shaking, and Samuel wept with her, and up and down the street the people of Dry Fork who had come out to look did not one of them say a word. Grace came out of this doorway behind her mother in her bare feet. Mama. Yes, Gracie. Is that my brother? That is your brother, sweetheart. That is Samuel. I thought I dreamed him. You didn't dream him, baby. He is real. He is right here. Samuel. Gracie. Samuel. You was in the dark place with me and Hope. I remember, Gracie. Samuel, we are home now. Where is home, Gracie? Home is with Papa Holt. Home is with Miss Ada. Home is a ranch with a big red barn. Samuel, 7 years old, sick and starved and wrapped in an old foreman's coat, looked up at his mother for an answer. Mama, is that true? Yes, baby, that is true, if you want it to be. Mama, I want it to be. Holt Calloway stood in the doorway of Doc Briggs's house with Ada Whitmore beside him, and he took off his hat, and he held it in both hands. Ada put her arm through his and leaned her head against his shoulder for the first time in the 6 years since her own daughter had been buried, and neither of them spoke. The trial of Gerald Stanton took 9 days in Rawlins. Tom Garrow testified for 6 hours. Briscoe testified for 4. The sheriff of Dry Fork produced the sack from Bitter Creek, and the rope that had tied it, and a saddle maker from Stanton's own ranch identified the knot as one Stanton himself had tied 100 times. Judge Halloran recused himself before the proceedings even opened, and a judge sent up from Cheyenne heard the case, and he listened to every word. On the last day, Eleanor Stanton took the stand. She walked up there in a clean blue dress that Ada Whitmore had sewn for her with her own hands in 3 days and 3 nights. And she sat down, and she put her hand on the Bible, and she swore to tell the truth. And then she told it. She told about Jesse Two Rivers. She told about the shooting. She told about the morning she was brought the news of her husband's death, and the week later when she went into labor 6 weeks early and gave birth to twin girls in her father's house. And she told about waking up and being told they had died, and she told about the 3 years in the East Wing, and she told about the night Tom Garrow came to her window and told her the truth. She told about the bread. She told about Grace's face when she handed her the loaf through the slat in the shack wall, and how Grace had not recognized her, and how Hope had been too weak even to open her eyes, and how she had whispered to her own daughters that she would come back, and how she had not come back because her father had caught her and bolted her door from the outside. She spoke for 2 hours. When she was done, the courtroom did not make a sound. And then the judge, a man in his 60s from Cheyenne who had heard a great many things in his life, took off his glasses and wiped them clean on his handkerchief, and he turned to Gerald Stanton, and he spoke. Mr. Stanton, in 41 years on the bench, I have not heard a more shameful account of what a man with money will do to his own blood. I find you guilty on all counts. I sentence you to the full term allowed under the territorial law. You will not see the outside of a prison wall again. Gerald Stanton did not speak. He looked at his daughter. His daughter looked back at him. And then Eleanor Stanton stood up from the witness chair and walked out of that courtroom and did not look back, and she did not speak her father's name out loud for the rest of her natural life. A month to the day after the trial, on a clear June morning, with the Wyoming sky so blue, it hurt to look at Holt Calloway and Eleanor Two Rivers. She had taken her husband's name back the week after the verdict, and she would answer to nothing else. Stood in front of Pastor Mills on the front porch of the ranch 4 miles west of Dry Fork, with a big red barn behind them, and an old dog named Scout lying at their feet, and they were married. Samuel stood up with Holt. Grace carried the flowers. Hope on her feet for the first time in 6 weeks, and standing only with one hand in Ada's and one in her mother's, laughed out loud when Pastor Mills said the word husband, and the whole gathering laughed with her because it was the first time any of them had heard that little girl laugh. and the sound of it was the sound of a bell that had been waiting 3 years to be rung. Ada Whitmore moved into the ranch house the following week. Holt built her own rooms on the east side where the morning light came in because Ada Whitmore was family now, and family did not sleep in other people's houses. Grace called her Nana, and Hope called her Nana, and Samuel, who had been slower to warm and faster to watch, came to her one night in the kitchen, 6 months in, and put his arms around her waist without a word. And Ada held that boy's head against her ribs and knew as sure as she had known anything in her life that her own Sarah was smiling at her from somewhere she could not see. On the first anniversary of the night he pulled 2 little girls out of Bitter Creek. Holt Calloway walked out to the creek alone at sundown. He stood at the edge of the water where the rope had been. He took off his hat. He did not pray out loud. He was not that kind of man. But he stood there a long time, and when he turned to walk back to the ranch, Grace Eleanor was coming up the path toward him in her good dress with Hope holding her hand on one side and Samuel on the other, and the 3 of them stopped when they saw him, and Grace put her hands on her hips the way Ada Whitmore did when she was about to deliver a lecture. "Papa." "Yeah, darlin'. Mama said you'd be out here. Your mama knows me pretty good by now, don't she? Papa Nana says supper is on the table in 10 minutes, and if you are not at that table, she is going to feed your portion to Scout." "Well, we better hurry then." "Papa?" "Yeah, Grace. Are you sad?" Holt looked at those 3 children. He looked at Grace with her chestnut hair and her blue eyes, and Hope with the little rattle still sometimes in her laugh from the pneumonia that had almost killed her, and Samuel with his father's dark eyes and his mother's straight back, and he shook his head. "No, Grace, I ain't sad." "Papa, why were you standing there then?" "Darlin', I was standing there to remember." "Remember what, Papa?" "Remember what it felt like when I did not have you." "Papa, that was a long time ago." "It was 1 year ago, Grace Eleanor." "Papa, 1 year is a long time when you are 4. Holt laughed out loud. He walked over, and he picked her up in one arm, and Hope in the other, and Samuel took his belt loop in his hand, the way Samuel always did, and the 4 of them walked up the path toward the ranch house, toward the lamp burning in the window, and the smoke coming out of the chimney, and the 2 women waiting on the porch, and Holt Calloway, 51 years old, a widower of 7 years, who had buried a wife and 2 children of his own blood, before he had ever heard the name Grace or Hope or Samuel, was not sad. He was the opposite of sad. He did not have a word for what he was. Up on the porch, Eleanor came down the steps to meet them, and Ada stood in the doorway with a wooden spoon in her hand, and behind Ada the long pine table was set for 6, and 6 was the number of people in that house now, and 6 had been the number for 1 year, and 6 would be the number for as long as the Lord allowed. Grace leaned her head against Holt's shoulder as he carried her. "Papa?" "Yeah, darling. I love you." "I love you too, Grace Eleanor." "Papa." "Yeah, sweetheart. Hope loves you too," she said with her fingers. "I love Hope too. You tell her that." "Papa." "Yeah, Grace. Samuel loves you." "I love Samuel too, darlin'." "Papa." "What sweet girl. We are your family now." Holt Calloway stopped walking. He stood there on the path between the creek and the ranch house with a little girl in each arm and a little boy hanging onto his belt, with the woman he had married coming down the porch steps toward him, and the woman who had become the grandmother of his children standing in the doorway of his kitchen, and he looked down at Grace. Eleanor, 4 years old, who had been in a burlap sack in the black water of Bitter Creek 1 year ago tonight, and he answered her with the truest sentence he had ever spoken in his life. "Grace, you listen to me, darlin', and you remember this when you are grown. You are my family. You and your sister and your brother and your mama. You were my family from the second I heard your voice in that creek. I did not find you that day, sweetheart. You found me. And I will spend every single day that God gives me proving to the 3 of you that I was worth the finding. That is not a promise. That is a fact. You are my children. This is my home. This is my family. And nothing in this world, not a rich man, not a court, not a sickness, not a grave, is ever going to take you from me again. Grace." Eleanor put her small hand against her father's cheek. "I know, Papa." And Holt Calloway carried his daughters up the path to where his wife was waiting, and the door of that ranch house closed behind all of them, and the lamp in the window burned steady and warm, and would go on burning, because Holt Calloway had a family, and Holt Calloway was home, and Holt Calloway was never going to lose them. Not ever. Not one of them. Not again. Not again. Not again. Not again. Not again. Not again.